We got the Bengals and the Bills, and we have another storied rivalry there with the Cowboys and the 49ers facing off in Santa Clara. So let's welcome in the dynamic duo, Prisco, Charles Davis, to preview the divisional round. We're starting off with the Jags. They're heading into Arrowhead to take on Kansas City. Jacksonville, that crazy comeback win against the Chargers. Now, gentlemen, if the Jags perform like they did in the second half of that wild card game, if we get that Trevor Lawrence, what kind of matchup are we looking at here? Pete, we'll start with you.
Well, it's a big matchup for their defense more than Trevor Lawrence. I think he'll be fine. I think the Jaguars will be able to score points. I'm concerned, if you're looking at it from a Jaguars angle, is how can you stop them? I don't know if you can stop them. And I went back and watched the tape from the last time the two teams played way back long ago. And it was a close game, but it really wasn't. The Jaguars couldn't really stop Kansas City. I mean, it was 27-10. They got a late touchdown. So I think it's imperative that they rush the passer. You have to do that. And this is not a great pass rushing team. So what does that mean? Do you blitz Patrick Mahomes? I think they're going to have to. I think they're going to have to come after him a little bit and take their chances. Double Kelsey, blitz Patrick Mahomes, and take your chances with the rest of the guys. I think that's the formula. And for the Chiefs, just be who you are. Let Patrick Mahomes be Patrick Mahomes, and I think you have every opportunity to hit those plays down the field. This is a tough challenge for Jacksonville. I think it's going to be really tough to win the football game for them.
And Pete, you mentioned that game. It was in November. It's a 27-17 cosmetic-looking game. I think you're right about that. It was never as close as the final score appeared. Kansas City sprinted out in front, and they remind me, and I probably am saying this ad nauseum, Indianapolis, Peyton Manning, this Kansas City Chiefs team plays like that. They're built to play with a 14-0 lead, and if they have that, look out. Because then their defense is at its best. You can turn pass rushers loose. They can take those gambles that Steve Spagnuolo likes to do on defense, and you know how aggressive he likes to play. And by the way, he's encouraged to play that way by the head coach, Andy Reid. Andy Reid is an offensive coach. He wants the ball back. So he encourages Spags, get after him, go get me the ball. And that's what he does defensively. If Jacksonville can keep this game somewhat even and kind of make it a little bit more of a slog, then things could get interesting in this one. I like Kansas City in it. Let's not make any mistake about it. Mahomes threw for 331, 4 touchdowns, interception last time. I think the numbers will be similar in this one. But can the Jacksonville Jaguars keep it somewhat even along the way so that they're not doing all the chasing in this one? Because I don't think they have that kind of a comeback in them the second time.
Yeah, the Chiefs led 20-0 at one point in their regular season matchup. Moving on to Saturday night, we've got an NFC East matchup in the Eagles and the Giants. These teams already played each other twice this season, with the Eagles winning both. Brian Daboll saying, hey, those losses have no impact on their approach to this divisional game. Charles, do you think the third time is the charm for the G-men?
It's got a chance to be, Jacqueline, and here's why. The last time they met, remember the first time they met was in New York. Giants were really, really injury-riddled, as Pete remembers. And, Philadelphia just took advantage, threw the ball well early, then ran it down their throats late. The second time they played, the Eagles needed that game for the number 1 seed, and the Giants didn't play anyone. They kept their starters on the bench, didn't play anyone of consequence. Eagles still kind of struggled because Jalen Hurts was coming off the injury list. To me, this game comes down to, can the Giants get it in a position where their pass rush can have an opportunity to get things done? Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams, Kayvon Thibodeau. Can they have an effect on this game? Because the last time they played, Jalen Hurts didn't run the ball at all. He's going to run it in this one, shoulder or not. They will have some more quarterback run game involved. But Philadelphia's formula, Pete, as I've seen throughout the year, they throw before they run. How will they do throwing the ball early in the game? How will the Giants defend that? That could tell the tale for this one. But this is a Giants team that will not come in intimidated.
And we still don't know how healthy Jalen Hurts is. I mean, he was banged up the last time he played. So that's always a concern as well. But I'm going to focus on the other side of the ball. I think when you look at the Giants, they have to be able to protect Daniel Jones. And Brian Daboll is a great play. And Mike Kafka, they're great play callers. They're great designers of the offense. But when you look at this Eagles defense, they led the league. They had 70 sacks. They had 4 guys in double digits. They get after the quarterback. And that's going to be the biggest challenge. Evan Neal, Rookie right tackle, missed some time in the middle of the season, struggled at points during the season. I think he's going to be a talented player, but this is a big ask of him. Andrew Thomas at left tackle, all-pro, great player. But you go to the right side, you have problems over there. I think they're going to attack that area, and they're going to have to give him help because if they don't protect him, Daniel Jones is going to be in for a long day. His entire career leading up to this season, he's been beaten because his offensive line wasn't very good. This will be concerning if the right tackle, Evan Neal, can't hold up.
And we're finally getting the highly anticipated matchup with the Bengals and the Bills. Of course, we remember week 17 with that game being canceled after the Damar Hamlin situation. Thankfully, he's now recovering at home in Buffalo. But both of these teams winning at home against backup quarterbacks in the wild card round. Neither performance was great. It was close in both of those games. But you guys, if both teams play to their best, they play to their ceiling, who do you think wins it, Pete?
I think it's Buffalo. And look, the Bills didn't play well last week, like you mentioned, and neither did the Bengals. And if their opposition had their starting quarterbacks in the game, they probably don't win those games. That's how bad it was for them. And I think, after everything that went down with the Bills and Hamlin's situation and the emotional strain of that, I think it just might have drained them a little bit. And I think they'll be refocused here. Here's the concern with the Bengals. Last year, Joe Burrow took them to the Super Bowl despite the fact that his offensive line wasn't very good. Well, now you're talking about the potential of having 3 starters down in this game. There's a chance Cap of the guard comes back. There's also a chance Jonah Williams, left tackle, plays with a dislocated kneecap if it's not that bad and they can brace it up. But it'll be interesting to see what the response is if they don't have those guys. Let's be honest. Buffalo didn't rush the passer very well last week against Miami. They have to be better at getting to the quarterback as well. So something has to give there. I think this could be a real problem for Joe Burrow. He gets the ball out so quickly, but if you can't protect them against that defense in that place, that's going to be a tough afternoon for Joe Burrow and the Bengals.
And this is a game between 2 extremely competitive quarterbacks. I mean, if that's not the understatement of the year, those two about how they go about their business, both of them straight up assassins. That's who they are. And they're going to go at it that way. I'm going to focus in on what you were talking about, Pete, because I think this is where the game is. And I'm talking about that offensive line for Cincinnati. Let's say that Jonah Williams is unable to go, although he did dislocate a knee earlier this year and came back and played. Let's say he is unable to go, and that's Jackson Carman at left tackle. Let's say Alex Kappa is unable to go. Now we're talking about Max Sharping at right guard. Hakeem Adeneji's been playing right tackle for Lyle Collins. To me, the phrase in this ball game is win late. And what I mean by that is if Buffalo's guys win that pass rush early and put extra pressure on Burrow, that's a problem. But if those guys can hold up just long enough to let Joe Burrow get the ball off, as he's been talking about, as you talked about him doing, how quick he is with it, that's a whole different ball game because not much flusters Burrow. But I'm just saying, if they win it early on that pass rush, if all of a sudden Rousseau, Ed Oliver, Boogie Basham, that crew gets in there quickly, that could change things. So I can't wait to watch how that goes. And one last thing, Buffalo doesn't like to blitz. But in this type of a ball game, Leslie Frazier may change things up, and he did it earlier this year, down 20-3 against Baltimore, start blitzing more, putting pressure on Lamar Jackson, keeping him in the pocket, and help them come back and win that game. He may change up a little bit in this one if necessary.
We got a rematch from last year's postseason in the Cowboys and 49ers. On one side, we got Brock Purdy, 6-0 as a starter, the Niners winning 11 straight games. And then we got Dak playing just an incredible game against the Cowboys and that dominant win over Tampa Bay on Monday night. Now, the Cowboys are 4-point dogs going into Santa Clara. Charles, what do you expect to see from these two teams come Sunday?
Well, I thought that last night on Monday night, it was the biggest sigh of relief coming out of Dallas, out of Arlington, Texas, Dak Prescott's camp, the whole deal, because Kirk Cousins has to carry that tag around about really good quarterback, but when the game's on the line, he's not the guy. Fair or unfair? Many people saw the same thing with Dak Prescott. He got rid of that in an emphatic way, beating Tampa Bay. And, oh, yeah, Tom Brady last night playing so well in that game. But he goes out to take on a San Francisco team that I think is the best in the NFC right now. I don't care if the game's in Philadelphia or San Francisco. I think they're the better team at this moment, and that's the matchup we're looking for. But let's see if Dak can continue to play as he did on Monday night. If so, he has the weapons around him. The offensive line played well. It'll be a fun matchup against the best defense that I think is playing football right now.
Yeah, and here's the thing when you look at the Cowboys, can they pressure the quarterback against that offensive line? And I think they can. I think that's the biggest matchup of this game. I think you got to go to both lines. You know, we want to talk about all the stars in San Francisco and all the stars in Dallas. You know, you talk about CeeDee Lamb and his ability to make plays, and Dak Prescott and Purdy and all those stars, McCaffrey in San Francisco. But ultimately the game comes down to who can block and who can tackle. And I think that's the key here for Dallas. Dallas looked really good on the offensive line. Even after Jason Peters went out, they moved the rookie back to left tackle, Tyler Smith, and they settled in and did a nice job. The 49ers have done a nice job on the offensive line. But neither offensive lines have played the defensive lines they're going to play in this game. Both defenses can get after the quarterback. Both have elite edge rushers. You're talking about Nick Bosa, the Defensive Player of the Year. Micah Parsons will probably be the runner-up Defensive Player of the Year. You have to block those guys, and I think this will be a telling game for one Brock Purdy. He hasn't exactly played the greatest defenses in the world. We'll see this week if he can hold off against a good defense and win that game and advance his team.
Yeah, the 9th playoff meeting between those two teams. Finally, we do want to get your picks for the underdog with the best chance to win outright in the divisional round. Pete, what you got for us?
I'm going with the Cowboys. I know it's a tough turnaround. You play on a short week. You go coast to coast. That's always a challenge. They are in the middle of the country. That makes it a little bit easier. But I think a team like the Cowboys is going to get on a little bit of a roll. They're good on both lines. They're physical on both lines. And the key to stopping the 49ers, stopping the run. I think Dallas getting Hankins back is big. They can stop the run. They can turn their pass rushers loose. We don't know about Purdy in an enormous game. He's played some good games. He's been good in them. But this is a good defense that can get after him. I'm going to take Dallas as the team I think pulls off the upset.
Pete, I like that one a lot, and I was looking at Cincinnati going to Buffalo as one because Cincinnati had the run last year, got to the Super Bowl. They have the right type of temperament in terms of their quarterback right now. They accept all challenges. You notice you're not hearing them anymore talk about lack of coin flip, all that. They've gotten that out of their system. Let's go to Buffalo and take care of business. But the one for me, I believe in organizational DNA, and that means the Giants. They're used to being giant killers, to coin a term, right? They go on the road. They take on number one seeded teams. They take on the best, and they do pretty well in the playoffs. And I know the names change and the faces change, but in New York, they chant defense first. Their defense is playing pretty well right now. They're up to this challenge. Yeah, it doesn't look pretty. That roster shouldn't be there, but that's what happens in sports sometimes. So I'm thinking within division, playing for the third time, that's a tough task for Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia wins, but those Giants, I'd keep a strong eye on them.
Guys, rolling with the NFC East. That is Pete Prisco and Charles Davis joining us here on CBS Sports HQ previewing the divisional round. Thank you so much, gentlemen. We appreciate it. And of course, we got to check Pete.
Wow, look at Pete.
I know. His wild card pick recap. He had 4 hits there.
Wow.
With the Niners at -9.5, the Jags at +1.5. We knew he was going to roll with the Jags. The Giants at +3, and then the Cowboys at -2.5. His best bet overall from last week was the Giants at +3, giving him a total of 4, 1, and 1.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.